Okay, so the purpose of this Zoom meeting is to have an overview of the history of Trivial Pursuits. So we have most of the former coordinators of Trivial Pursuits on this call. We're missing, of course, Anne Yamaga
Yamasaki.
Yeah, say it again.
Yamasaki. Had the
Yamasaki.
G instead of a G, S.
And I think we're missing somebody else, but I can't remember. Oh,
Linda Race.
Linda, yeah, who I've written to a few times but never got a reply. So let's go ahead and get started. I sent you all this document that has some questions and a basic background. And what I'd like to do is, in chronological order, go first to Lily, then Dorothy, then me, then Marcia, then Nancy and Freddie. Just to say, why did you become a Trivial Pursuits coordinator? So that would be Lily first.
Well, what I thought I have gotten the um, documents from Dean Robino, who went to the library and copied all of the Trivial Pursuits uh, flyers. And so, what I thought I would give you is the basic thing. In 1989, I think Anne Yamasaki was president, and she decided that it might be a nice thing in January, when everybody was going through the doldrums and not having a class or anything like that, that Trivial Pursuits would be a nice little sort of a wonderful day to have something for the members, and that it would be a gift from the teachers, obviously, to all the members that could get into that thing. So she set it at 40, and because the building that they were having it at was on Sacramento Street, Henry Dakin's house that he had converted into offices. So we were in the penthouse, which was the third floor, and it also opened out on a deck. And so you could have lunch, outside and so forth. So anyway, she started it in 89, and she ran it 89, 90, 91. And then in 92, Marcia Friedman took it over for a year. And then 93, Anne Yamasaki is back at it. 94, Marcia is back at it. Then comes the seventh one was Pat Schneider, who lived in I think it was
San Quentin.
yeah. Anyway, and then the next year,
Wait, what year was that, Pat Schneider?
95. And then in 96, we have Dan Hall Johnson, who was a member from Pacific Scribes, took it over for 1 year. And the next year, the ninth one, was Sandy Sanchez ran it. And then Anne took it over on the 10th one and had it was considered a big anniversary kind of thing. And she announced at the, the meeting that this would be the last one. And somehow a few of us old timers decided that it was not really something that should be decided by one person. And so we looked around and found that Linda Race would take it over. So she did it for the next three. So the 11th, 12th, 13th were all Linda Race. And then 14 was also Linda's, I think. 15, Anya Masaki came back into the picture in 2003. And
In
so
2000 and what?
anyway, that gives you a start of the fact that, there were a number of people involved in this thing, and it is a big job. And so it's not surprising that, people would only run it one at a time, but Anne ran it then and for the next few years, and then other people probably have other, Marcia, I think, took over at some point. Anyway, that gives you a beginning, as to, the little bit of who ran things. So I can shut up now.
That's great. I can double check with the flyers too, now that I have the correct location of the flyers.
Yes, right.
Lily, do you remember how did it become named Trivial Pursuits?
Pardon me? I didn't,
How is the name Trivial Pursuits chosen? How and when?
oh, I guess it was just because Anne thought that maybe if we just asked people, teachers, that did they have anything in mind that was just a tiny thing that could be taught in 50 minutes? And so that you could have 6 teachers at a time, and each one would do 50 minutes, and then you'd switch tables and so forth. And that is where Dorothy Yuki comes in a little bit later. She wasn't involved in the very beginning, but she did come in with her dance cards, and that was a wonderful thing because it everybody had to move from one table to another table based on this little card that they got, so that you weren't always moving with a friend from one table to the other, that you would mix up and meet other people and get to know other members and stuff. So it was really a wonderful, wonderful thing that she developed. And so
Well, Dorothy, can you tell us the history of the dance cards? I know it's interesting.
Well, it was because every time we had Trivial Pursuits, everybody would end up in one table and nobody would be in another table because everybody got to pick and choose where they wanted to go. And so Anne and I talked about it, and I said, well, there has to be a way. But the problem was that everybody said they didn't want to sit with the same people each time. So you couldn't rotate 8 people to another table, which would have been so easy to do. And so I thought, well, I got to figure it out somehow, but how do I do it? I had an engineer brother, and I called up Gary and I said, okay, there must be a formula to do this. And he said, I don't know of any. And then I asked Charles Stevenson, Lily's husband, if he knew how to do it. He didn't know how to do it. And then Mr. Brown, I thought, well, they all work at that, really smart place, Livermore. And I said, okay, I'll ask him. No, he didn't know how to do it. And so they said, well, it's up to you. And so I played with it for 3 days and made a pattern sort of thing on a piece of paper and finally came up with the dance cards.
That's
And so
amazing.
They're brilliant.
that's what
Yeah.
happened.
Dorothy, Freddie, and then Marcia.
I think it's important for us to back up a minute because some people might be watching this video that don't know what Trivial Pursuits is.
Ah,
And I think it's
good
important,
point.
to share that it's kind of a member appreciation event, and the average number and what the format generally has been, for folks who don't know, who are members, but don't know what Trivial Pursuits is, and it's never come.
Oh, okay. And Marcia, what was your question?
Well, I was going to say, I think that one of the reasons Anne called it Trivial Pursuits, because it started in the 80s and the game was very popular then.
Yeah.
And there were you had 6 tokens and you moved, 6 wedges you had to find. And she decided that 6 teachers would work. Although one year, I think Trivial Pursuit 3, we had 8 teachers, but every other time it was 6 teachers. And I think she had tried something like this when she was a member of the LA group. They had done something similar and it was very popular. So she brought it to San Francisco and it took off.
Freddie?
So, it's a day-long event, and there are 6 teachers who are all members of FOC, and they each teach something. Tell me if I'm getting this right. Each teacher teaches something for 50 minutes, and they repeat it 5 times. They get one break as a teacher. But everybody rotates, so they get to each teacher through their dance card that Dorothy developed. So everybody moves from teacher to teacher and learns basically 6 different little treats, something related to Trivial Pursuit. I mean, something related to calligraphy or to bookmaking or to paper arts. And teachers give a handout. Some teachers bring supplies. And, I'm hoping that at some point we could talk about just the range of what's been taught at Trivial Pursuits. I don't know if that's on your,
Why not now?
Yeah.
Let's,
right, but I mean, I just wanted to, I think it's important. Everybody gets a goodie bag. I don't know if the goodie bag started at the very beginning, but each participant gets a goodie bag of donations that have been gathered by the goodie bag coordinator. That's often been, in my time, been Dorothy.
From the door.
Dorothy, and you get a bunch of really like cool paper and pen and inks and markers and erasers and things related to our art. And you get to take them home.
and
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 Anne, when I joined Anne to do the Trivial Pursuits, and I started a long time ago, I think it was 2000 or before 2000, because I did go to the Dakin place too before. But when Anne asked me to help her out, I remember her telling me that the whole thing was a gift to the membership. And so the 6 teachers were going to give a gift to the membership. And so there was not a big budget. I think the budget at the time maximum was $10 per person, if they even used it, that we would share whatever we had to help each teacher out with their class. And so there was not a lot of money spent. And that's how she explained it to me, that it was a gift to the membership by 6 teachers. So each year she would ask different people, hey, do you have something you'd like to teach in 15 minutes, some little thing that's a lot of fun and everybody would enjoy and so forth. And so that's what I remember.
and now it's evolved to the point that we do have a budget, a limited budget for each teacher that, Friends of Calligraphy just tells them this is your budget.
The budget is $25 per teacher.
Yeah.
And
And
some of us, some of us did not use the $25 at
Yeah.
all. It was just, you were donating the whole thing and that was
yeah.
it. So, and then Charles and I did the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd one, which were 2009, 2010, 2011. And we enjoyed it very much because, it was a wonderful experience. And it was nice to have the teachers be as generous as they were. each one. And we've had some fantastic teachers. Initially, I think there was Ward Dunham, Marcia Friedman, Linnea Lundquist, Debbie Turrieta. Anne used to teach a lot of classes. Susie Taylor was in the thing, Carol Pallison Hicks, Virginia LaRue, Bream, who was from Iceland, a teacher. And Anne was very fond of Bream, I remember. Anyway, and Georgiana, Carla, Dorothy taught lots of classes. Marcia also taught lots of classes. Claude Dietrich, Georgia Deaver, Barbara Callow, Monica Dengo even taught in the 8th one. The teachers were fantastic, and the things that we taught were really far out. Some of us, the thing was, when I was in charge, it was also at a time that I was making painting silk scarves and selling them. And so we made Charles made little frames, and I put silk on it and then taught painting on the silk. And I remember Bill Davidson being in the class and saying, I want to paint an airplane. Anyway,
And Alan Blackman, I remember him
Yes.
teaching.
Yes.
Yeah, we've been so lucky to have such fantastic teachers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Alan came up with the most incredible creative things.
Yeah.
You never knew
Yeah.
what he was going to do, but they were always amazing. I think Alan taught almost more than anybody for a while. Right
Yeah,
up
he
into his
was.
90s, he was coming
Yeah,
up with,
every year.
you know,
He was in the
funny
first,
different ideas, and people loved it.
Well, I
Yep.
think he taught 2 of the years that I was the coordinator.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, he wanted to continue teaching, but there became a time when he just
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
couldn't do it.
Yeah, but he hung out there. I taught at the very first Trivial Pursuits, and I taught how to make ribbon roses, which I'd learned in Girl Scouts. And
That's
I
great.
didn't have anything to do with calligraphy, but people enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah.
We've had book arts, we've had marbling and Goko printing, and
You did jelly printing.
we did jelly printing. I did one with scrapbooks. We've done had paper cutting, all different book arts using different tools, different techniques. It's amazing the breadth. Every year people come up with something different, and there's always at least one letter form or lettering type thing. But there's just all these different craft ideas that people can weave into their everyday calligraphy and things that they were doing.
Yeah.
Did any of you experience a big oops, something, I don't know, some sort of big mistake or a challenge
I
that
just I just noticed I was going through the flyers and I kept looking for the flyer for 2006. I did the flyers on and off for a number of years.
yes.
I found that the 2006 flyer still said 2005.
Yeah.
And no one caught it until now.
Until I just today. And
Yeah.
there was also we started using Roman numerals. I think it was all around
Yeah.
to 4 or 5. People would put the Roman numeral after the
Wrong.
and there were 2 or 3 that said Trivial Pursuit 18. I think we had Trivial Pursuit 18 3 times on the
Oh,
flyers. They're just a few little typos.
and what about lunch? I know for several years Dorothy's daughter Mia did lunch,
Oh
but
my
then
God, she was
but
amazing.
No, earlier on, Anne decided to have a box lunch.
Yeah,
except that
sandwiches.
She
Mhm.
called it a
Mhm.
bento.
Yeah.
And the bento came in little pink boxes, remember?
Yeah.
From the local, I guess it was
The
someplace.
local, it was usually somebody in Japanese town that she
Yeah,
knew.
Pantown, that
right.
George would go and get them and come back,
Yeah.
carts filled with the little bento boxes.
Then it
Yeah.
got too expensive, so she couldn't do it anymore, she said.
Oh, the thing was, it was usually just the pink boxes that they use in bakeries,
Yes.
that
Uh-huh.
came. And you had a choice of a couple of entrees that you could have, sandwiches or something, and then there would be a little cookie and an apple. And then there was always a table set up for people to bring something from either that they had made, like cookies or something, and or brought tangerines. One time somebody brought, or little apples, little things to put on that table so that we could have a little snack from time to time.
Well, it's Friends of Calligraphy. There always is great snacks,
Yes,
always.
right. Always food. Oh,
Janet
at
Glessner's
at
Moki
one
every
time,
year.
Georgiana
Moki.
had said, we should call it the Writing and Food Society or something like that.
The
And
year
for
that
quite a few years, I believe, Lily, when was it that Laura Burnaby brought big, huge things of salad? Was that during your time?
Yes, that was.
Okay.
Yeah. She was really wonderful because by that time we had gone to, from the box lunch idea to bringing something that was uh major. And so what she did was to bring like three different salads,
Mhm.
one just vegetables, another one with some sort of chicken or something like that, and in a salad, and then something else. And she always brought cookies, usually that had wonderful little designs on the front of them. I don't know how she ever did all that stuff, but Laura was a wonderful person, and she was definitely, in the 3 years that I was running it, she contributed the whole lunch
You're
Yeah.
was her
talking
lunch.
about Laura Burnaby.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
Laura Burnaby.
yeah,
And then she just said, I've had enough. I'm not going to do it again.
yeah, right.
But the
I said,
years that
okay.
Dorothy's daughter Mia made it were wonderful because Mia was a phenomenal cook also and came up with creative salads and
Yeah. So
desserts.
I had to ask her. I says, "Oh my God, Laura's not going to do it anymore. What are we going to do?" And she said, "Oh, I can do it, Mom." I said, "Oh."
Thank goodness. Yes.
Yeah, she did
Well, the
it.
way
Well, last year she did it, I think, which 2 years ago. She came from Sacramento for the
Yeah.
day. She had moved to Sacramento, but she came back to help us. And
Yeah.
she was
and
amazing for
the
that.
way I understand it is that Dorothy also was a big uh, part of that equation. Mia didn't do it by herself. She did
No.
it with Mom's help.
Yeah.
My
Mom did the
kitchen.
shopping.
Yeah. So,
And Gia was, and her daughter Gia was our entertainer.
yes.
And
How
then
many years, Dorothy?
you mentioned at one point the piano, that
Ah,
George used to come
yes.
and play the piano.
Mm.
Well, it didn't happen in the first, 10 or 15 times, because we were in the penthouse. But when it went, when Linda Race did the 3 years that she did, it was at Mills College in
Mhm.
in Berkeley, I mean in Oakland. Um, and then when Anne took over again, she managed to find the church that we have had ever since. And that church happens to have a piano. And George Yamasaki plays the piano. So he would come at lunchtime and play while we were eating. So that's how that happened.
Also, Lily, do you remember that Jerry Lehman would sing too with
Oh,
us?
yes,
Oh,
yes.
that's
Yeah,
right.
That was my favorite thing, seeing
yeah.
Lily and sometimes, not Lily.
Yeah, Jerry
And
really has
sometimes
been.
Debbie Turrietta would sing with George.
Yep. Yeah.
And he came even after Anne passed away, he came almost every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he would just sit there and he loved just seeing everybody having fun and, and chatting with his old friends. It was very sweet.
Hmm. Yeah, it was wonderful to have Jerry there. Jerry's been there from the very, very beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Through. She has always helped. And usually I think Dorothy takes all the things that come in as donations for the goodie bag and they take them to Jerry's house and they fill all the different bags in Jerry's house from what I
Yeah.
remember.
And Jerry still stores
Mhm.
quite a bit of Trivial Pursuits, what do you call it? Supporting
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes.
Accoutrements.
items, yeah.
And
Well, so,
now she's doing alphabets too.
oh,
She's
Son
wow.
doesn't drive
basement.
anymore. And
Yeah.
so there's space in the garage, but the next door neighbor rented the garage for his car, but she emptied out her garage. So now she has all kinds of things for Friends of Calligraphy, like all the alphabets and all our Trivial Pursuits extra stuffs. She
Mm,
could keep it in her house.
mm,
Yeah.
amazing.
It's surprising how much stuff, little things it takes to put this on besides
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
the signage for the white elephant sale and the boards to put the
Yeah.
decorated envelopes and the little boxes for the money and the ballot box,
Mhm.
tape and wipes and paper towels, and there's just so much stuff to keep it going.
Mhm.
Freddie,
Can you describe the decorated envelope contest and how that got started?
I don't remember how it got started. It just seems it's
I
something
don't
we've always
either. I don't
done.
remember it when it
well,
got started either, but Lily, you had it when you did it.
What?
my notes say that the decorated envelope was introduced in 1993.
Yes,
Ah,
And
that's
you had to send your registration and your check in a decorated
yes.
envelope.
well, the word wasn't decorated. What the word was unusual,
Hmm.
which struck me as
Ah,
very funny because she said, that you had to send it in an unusual envelope.
Hmm.
How funny.
And then somewhere along the line, she also said that there would be a prize for the most unusual envelope. And one year it was Norm Brown's original handmade pen holder.
Mhm.
And another year, I guess, there was a black and white Terry Louis original to the person whose registration arrives in the most unusual black and white envelope. So that was in 94. It's handy to have all these old um, flyers, certainly. So, no, the most unusual envelope is the way it was originally said, as judged by Anya Masaki was what it
and
said.
that's one reason why we don't use PayPal, for example,
Uh-huh.
to register people for Trivial Pursuits, because then we wouldn't get the
Yeah,
envelopes.
no envelopes, right?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the perks of doing it. I have a notebook filled with magnificent envelopes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or every year people come up with something. Some have been funny, some have been, um, just absolutely beautiful. Some of them have been very clever. They've folded or used maps and things. The
Yep.
only thing I discovered that because we do registration by postmark date, there's a number of people that decorate black envelopes. You cannot see a postmark on a black envelope. And so it's hard to tell when they sent it.
Hmm.
Well, the other thing that happens nowadays is I had one envelope and it never arrived
Yeah.
at the person's place because apparently somebody liked the envelope, I guess. And
Evelyn never got mine.
Yeah,
To resend one to her, even though I had a picture of it and everything else.
that's happened more than once.
Yeah.
That somebody sent one and I never received it.
because it's too pretty and nobody wants to get rid of it, so they just put it in their drawer. And I have the feeling that the post office drawers have many calligraphy items.
So where are the places that Trivial Pursuits has been held? I have Henry Dakin's penthouse,
Mhm.
Yes, and
Mills,
then there was Mills College.
Mills
right?
College was 2000 to 2002. And then it was back at Henry Dakin's for 2003 and 4. And
Right.
2005, we moved to the church.
Yes.
Uh,
And
so
it's
it's
been
been
there ever
there ever
since.
since.
Been the church for 20 years now.
Yeah.
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 What's the name of that church? It's in Japantown.
Christ United Presbyterian Church. And for years it was Rose Oda was the
Yeah.
office manager.
Yes. Yes.
And she's the one who ran out and opened the gates for us. And
She would tell us 8:30 and
right.
Laura would pick her up and Laura would say, I'll try to get her there earlier. And so she would race her down and hopefully get there a little after 8 and we'd all
So
get
there
in.
are we rent 9 parking spaces. So
Uh-huh.
6 of them are for the teachers, and then 3 are left over for, let's say,
Volunteers.
the lunch caterer or anybody who has mobility problems.
Or carrying lots of stuff.
Yeah, like Laura. Yeah. And
And
then
I've been lucky to get it too, because after the white elephant, I'm chosen to please take everything away and
everybody
donate.
depends on you to do that, to take
We should
everything away to scrap.
we should explain the white elephant because I don't think
Ah,
part of the beginning.
well, who wants to explain it? Oh, I will then. So it's a table where we tell people, bring your calligraphy or bookmaking related items that you don't want, but that are still usable, and put them on the white elephant table. And it's free, but we do have a little box there that if people want to make monetary donations, they can put money into the donation box. But amazing things show up. I remember maybe it was the first year I went to Trivial Pursuits. I drove up with
Lily.
Lily,
Lily.
Lily, you're on.
Lily, we can see you.
I can't see me.
Oh, don't change
Don't do
anything.
anything.
Don't
Just
change
Don't touch a
I can't
thing.
even, I don't,
Okay, don't touch
I
anything.
pressed on that thing and
There
Well,
you
don't do
are.
it again. Don't do anything.
Yeah.
So to finish my story briefly, Sarah Frank and I walked in the door, and the table was not where we usually have it now. It was on the other side of the room. Sarah went like a bee to a honey pot, and she got this enormous uh, ornate um inkstand with it was made of brass, and it was about this big. Places for pens, places for ink, had little angels on it. I think it was,
Wow.
I don't know how she saw that from across the room, but wow. And there's always fabulous paper and strange things you might never have thought were calligraphy related, but they work. Anyway, so that's the white elephant table.
lots
And
of
we've
books
had
on
to tell
magazines.
people, don't put your goodie bags under the white elephant table, because a couple of years people did
Janet
that and
lost
their
her
goodie
whole
bags were
bag.
taken. Nancy.
Well, and also
Nancy,
people,
too.
no, I never lost my bag. But what I must say is people brought some amazing calligraphy books. So besides unique little items and paper and inks and pens, the number of calligraphy books was fabulous. And people were able to build their library based on books that people decided they either had two of or they didn't
Yeah,
need anymore. And
yeah.
I think for new people coming to Trivial Pursuit, we steered them towards the table to say, if you're trying to build your library, this is where you start.
Yep. And back issues of Alphabet. I
Yeah.
always find duplicate and triplicate issues and people, and I store them up and bring them. And it's great because newer members who don't know that, haven't seen these issues can see our history and, read
Right.
these great publications. I've got a stack ready for next year.
Well, and it gives all of us throughout the year, when we look at trying to purge our studio, we can go, you know, I'm going to save this for Trivial Pursuit. And by, like you said, by the time it's January, we sort of put together a box and we know that
Box. I've got a carload.
But people bring stickers and oh God, I can't. There's so many different things besides just paper and ink. All kinds of craft supplies. Somebody brought little dinky dips and test tubes and
That's
mixing jars and
well, Marcia House was being moved by her family to Minnesota or Michigan, and they called somebody at Friends of Calligraphy. Anyway, Dean and I were tasked with driving out to San Ramon to this huge ranch style house. And this woman was a professional calligrapher for years. And she was.
That was Marcia House.
Yes, Marcia
Yeah.
Her
House.
name was Marcia House. Yeah.
Yes.
so
Yeah.
And so Dean and I went out and we put my seats down in my car. We filled my car all the way up to the ceiling from front to back. We barely had room for us driving back from San Ramon. And we just kept everything in my car and then brought it to Trivial Pursuits. It was such a gift from Marcia's family to FOC. And,
it's really hard if you're trying to purge your studio and then you go and you see all these things.
yes,
But one of the great things about the white elephant table is that teachers can, I don't mean just the teachers, the Trivial Pursuits teachers, I mean members who are there who are teachers can find supplies for their newbie students,
right.
like pens, nibs, ink, paper,
And
things
books.
that are, they can add up when you're a well, they
Yeah.
can add up, period. But
Yeah.
it's a good way to supply new calligraphers.
Yeah. Which is why we should try to encourage more and more new members to come to Trivial Pursuit, because it's a one-day event where they get to meet members, they get to see what FOC is giving as a gift, but they can build up their studio. So I think, trying to encourage new people to come.
Ready?
So I think that the number is about 40 participants, and if there's more than 40 registered, then it goes to lottery, right?
Yes.
goes to a wait list and
Yeah.
then has
Yeah.
there's
A
always
couple
a few
couple of
people
years.
that
It's only been a couple of years that happened.
Yeah. This last year we didn't have 40.
Mm-mm.
I don't know why, but other years there have been more.
I've
So-
almost always had a wait list, and then there's always been a couple people due to family emergency or illness or
But yeah.
conflict, they drop out, and there's always been somebody to take their place.
Yeah.
This is the first year. Last year was the first year, I think, that we.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. It was such a good one too. We had such a good time.
So I wanted to ask, I only have 3 places down on my notes that
Mhm.
where it's been held. Henry Dakin's office penthouse, Mills College, and Christ United Presbyterian Church.
Yeah.
That's
Have
it.
have there been others, or is that it?
That's it.
That's it. Well, that's pretty cool
Yeah.
because it's been going for what, 30 years?
36 years.
36 years.
We didn't,
Wow.
we skipped 2022, and 2021 we had the Zoom version.
Virtual.
Um,
That was a great one.
that was Dorothy's idea. We were talking about it because it was the middle of the pandemic and we couldn't do in person. And Dorothy said, why don't we do it over Zoom? And why not? And
We
the only
figured it out.
so the advantage of that was we always ask people who live in the Bay Area because it's a one-day thing. I mean, Carl has come all the way from
Santa
Santa
Cruz, yeah.
Cruz, San Jose people. Carol Pallison came once from Reno. So it's always been local, but doing it on Zoom, I invited people that members of the FSC who lived at great distance. We had Annie Sakali from North Carolina. We had people from New York, Carol Dubois from Oregon, because it didn't matter where they came from. They were on Zoom.
You mean as
But
teachers,
Did you
right?
open
yeah,
it
those
up
were the
to,
teachers. And then because we didn't have to have tables and people who were participating were given a Zoom link, um, we could have more than the 40 people. I think we opened it up to 60, but we still did it as an all-day thing. And 6 people, each teacher taught on Zoom to everybody at one
One
time.
time,
There was
yeah.
a break, and we had a lunch break where people could go and, make their lunch. But doing it as an all-day thing on Zoom was maybe not the greatest idea. It was
well,
pretty
but it,
exhausting.
it,
But it
it-
worked. We did it.
yeah, and it filled a need.
Yeah, we were all homebound, and it allowed us to still be a part of something that was important to us, but we couldn't go anywhere. So,
And we
uh,
felt
It was
safe because we were
it
at
was
home.
interesting because some of the teachers had never taught on Zoom, didn't have a document camera. Some people did, but not everybody. A couple of people had a document camera, but they said, I've never used it until now. I never needed it. So it was, and we did some we did some dry runs
Tech
before
runs.
the event
Yeah.
to make sure that and everybody pretty much worked out
Oh,
really
yeah.
well. We didn't really have any technical glitches, but it was
no.
just a long day.
And who was the woman? From Texas or New Mexico? What was what's her name that taught? Is it Jane or
Oh, from Texas, Sharon Zeugen.
Sharon Zweigin? And she did a great job. She taught how to do the without lifting your pen, how to draw
Yeah,
things like that. So you're right. We were able to have people from far away.
yeah. Marcy Robinson from New Jersey, who is the
Yes.
least technical person, and Barry from New York.
Yes.
So I think you guys, that year that we did it, Trivial Pursuit on Zoom, you took advantage of teachers from far away. So it was even more of a gift because it wasn't the regular local people, like you said. It
No.
reached across the country and brought in members that did a great job from back east, down south, wherever.
I think it was good for the teachers too, because they only had to teach one class
Yeah.
That was
instead
it. Yeah. Instead
of
of
five.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
they didn't have to repeat themselves.
Yeah,
I've only taught once, and I taught how to make origami
stars.
Stars, right?
stars.
Yes, that was
And
great.
it was great, and I made mine out of practice sheets, but it was really a challenge for some people. And I have to say, it was exhausting teaching at
Uh-huh.
6 times. And so, kudos to the teachers who came back again and again, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a
It
lot of
is a
work.
lot of prep, but it's a lot of fun because the participants are so enthusiastic.
Mhm.
Yeah.
People like Jerry and Carl and Debbie who've been coming year after year after year love it. But the new people that join the FOC and hear about this, and it's talked up in the fall. And
Yes.
it's also been billed as an easy way. If you've never taken a workshop and you're new to calligraphy, it's very non-threatening because you don't have to know anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Have to be at any level, so it's very easy, and you're just getting little bite-sized pieces. So people are so happy, and then they become converts. And I think
Yes.
that's why we've always had a waiting list up until this year, was because everybody wants to do it again.
Yeah.
Dorothy, two things. Could you fix your image? You're being cut off, half of your face.
Oh,
There you go. There we go. That's
Yeah, there
better.
we go.
And
Now
the other thing is,
oh, that's a
could you
see.
could you please talk about the goodie bags, the history? How did they get
Oh,
started, and where do you always get the most amazing
well,
bags or
Anne
make them?
Anne said we need to do, something like a goodie bag. And I said, yeah, I think that's a wonderful idea. And she says, okay, Dorothy, we need to get 40 bags. And I'm giving you a budget of $100. And I said, oh, that's only a couple of dollars each. And I said, okay, so I'm going to start scrounging. So she called me the scrounger because every time I would see something 40 to 50 of, I would take it, and it had to be something useful and clean and unused.
Clean.
Yeah, clean and unused. And so I go to a place called Scrap San Francisco here in San Francisco. And I also keep my eye open for little things that I find on the, garage sales or whatever that are packaged and not opened and, whatever. And I would grab it and I would pay very little or nothing. And so every year that she said, well, did you spend your 100? I never spent my 100. I only spent maybe at the most $50 or so. One year I did spend a little bit because I think I got some stuff from Sakura, the one that does the micron
Mhm.
pens and pencils, and they charged me, so I had to pay for it. But it was just a gift, and so everything had to be, I thought, useful, something we could use. It wasn't just something to throw away. So no advertising, but I would send out letters to people, to companies, and tell them about it. And some of them would donate, like General Pencil always donated something. This year, I think they donated a little set of pencils and an
Yeah,
eraser and stuff.
that's been their go-to
Yeah.
donation
Yeah.
for the last several years.
Yeah. I got them for the big conference in Sonoma. And so that's when, and I got Sakura because of the conference. And so
Flax almost always donates a gift card.
uh-huh.
And
And so does
California Art Supply.
that's been a yearly thing. And then the art store that's in California Arts Supply or whatever it's called down here
Redwood
in
City.
Levelland,
Yeah. No, it's
they
not
gave us
Redwood.
this
It's in
year
San Mateo.
Oh.
$7.50 cards, and only 3 people used them. So he said he's never going to donate again.
But
I got the letter from Ron, and he said, I gave $7.50 cards to everyone, and only 3 have been used. So
I saved
that's it.
I saved
I
mine for
didn't
several years,
realize.
and then I went down before the conference, and I had $30 worth of gift cards to use.
Well,
But
he said only 3 have used it this year, so I guess that's the end of that one. But anyway, Flax has always given us the $5 gift cards.
One year, I think it was before the conference that didn't happen, the right on the edge.
right on the edge.
Kurataki had donated a
Uh-huh.
big, big selection of pens. They were stored at Nancy's, and
oh
they
my
said,
God, my house, Clifton's bedroom was full of boxes of donations from Kurataki.
Kurataki, yeah.
So Deborah Farabouf was teaching at that Trivial Pursuit, was teaching fabric markers
Oh, that's
on
right.
canvas
That's
bags.
right.
So
Yeah.
we took the Kurosaki because we weren't using it for the conference, and everybody got a set of 30 fabric markers. That was amazing. I think that
Yeah.
was like $100 right there,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
retail, and they got their goodie bag and they got to decorate it with those markers from. So every once in a while we get a little
What
bonanza.
about the bags themselves?
So a couple of years I made them. I
I
don't know if
still,
everybody remembers
Yes, I
yeah,
do.
I still
Oh, yeah.
have mine.
50 bags and also little gift things that I made. But I had, because of Sonoma, the conference, I developed a letter requesting donations that I gave to Deborah, to follow up on so she can use the letter as a basis to ask people for donations. I tried to make it so that it sounded as if they weren't just giving it to anybody, but is to promote them also. But I wanted to make sure that they understood that it had to be something useful. So Deborah asked me for all the papers and all that stuff, and she used it for right on the edge. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's what I use when I request donations or things to be put in the goodie bag.
Where do you get the goodie bags? I mean, I know that you've made at least 2 over the years, but then
Yeah. I've gotten this last one. I was looking it up. I needed something because Scrap used to get goodie bags or these nice shopping bags donated that were not used. They were still in the boxes, you know. And I think 2 years I got it from them. But this last year, they didn't have any. And I was talking to Laura, and Laura says, well, let's look it up. And so we started looking. I said, oh, there's one. We can get 40 or 50 bags for like $20. Maybe I can buy something different. Maybe I can find something different. She says, no, just get them. It's my donation. And I says, what? She says, yes, just get them. And so I got them. And then it was her donation.
good for her.
Yeah.
There's
So I might
one-
make them again this next time.
I just thought of, there's one unsung hero who's been helping us for quite a number of years. David Brooks has been doing name tags.
Oh,
For so many
yes.
years.
Thank you.
Every
Yeah.
year.
Every year I would write David and I'd go, I know you're really busy and you have all these other activities, but please, because everybody, I flatter him. And he always said yes. As you know, as long as I got him the names in advance, and you know, he'd even bring some
Yeah.
extra in case there was a last minute. But David has never said no, and his name tags were little works of art. I've kept all
Yes.
of them for
Yeah.
years.
And he
Yes.
wasn't going to go to Trivial Pursuit this last year. And I had called him to say, David, I have a big favor. Can you do the name tags? And he said, oh, all right. You know how he is. And I said, well, David, why aren't you going to Trivial Pursuit? Oh, I don't know. And I said, you know, I'm driving and you just happen to be on the way. So we did talk him into coming and he had a great time.
Yeah.
He always has. He always enjoys it.
He
Always
does. And I said, it won't be the same without you there. And, you know, he likes for me to pick him up and drive him there. And I used to pick him up when we would go to Irma Taketa's class in Lafayette. So he just, he likes a chauffeur.
But you know, the name tags, especially because there's always new people and you're going around, you can't remember 40 people. And
Yeah.
it's really nice to have those. So
Yeah.
Freddie?
I think it's
Marsha.
because of David on name tags. I do name tags now for every one of my classes. And I think it had a lot to do with David because I remember in the classes, you can't remember 40 people that you just met if you hadn't met them before. And so that was such a great idea. So now I make name tags for all my classes.
Now, Freddie had her hand
And
up.
saying that part of the way this works is that people who register volunteer to do setup and cleanup and help register people.
Mhm.
So, you know, the participants are an integral part of making this work.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the setup and the cleanup are difficult. That takes using your body for one thing, and then setting up the tables. We have a diagram for how to set up the tables, but it can be kind of confusing. So it's really important that we have those volunteers. And then the cleanup is done like that. It just
Yeah.
seems to go so quickly
fast,
because
yeah.
everybody's scurrying around doing everything without supervision, pretty much. Just
In the morning when we start, as soon as the doors open and people start coming in, I always feel like it's just barely controlled chaos.
yes, exactly.
People,
Yeah.
people are greeting each other and they're excited and happy. but then they're all running around because to get the tables out, because you can't do this until that happens, and the tables have to be covered, and then you have to set up, and everybody's running around because the people that have been there know how to do it, and the new people just say, what can I do to help? And you just point and say, go talk to that person.
Yeah.
And it all gets done amazingly by the time we're ready to start at 9:30. I don't know how it happens, but it does.
Magic.
Yeah.
Nancy.
When we had it last year, we're all running around and it was Freddie got sick, so she couldn't be there. So Evelyn and I are there and we're trying to get everything going. And then
But I was sick too, so I wasn't
you
much
weren't feeling
use.
good. And all of a sudden I realized I don't drink coffee anymore. And I said, Dorothy, how do you make coffee? I used to make coffee all the time. And she said, well, do this. And anyway, then that woman, there was a lovely woman that had not been there before.
I know, and I can't remember her name.
But anyway, she came up and she goes, what can I do to help? And I said, do you know how to make coffee? She goes, yes. And she took over, and the whole day long, she stayed on top of the coffee to make sure there was, and I have her name written down, but I said, I need you every year.
That's
And
it.
she goes, all right, but you're right, Marcia. People seem to know, people that have been there before know what needs to be done. The new people, though, because you're only paying what, $35, $40 for an all-day event where you're taking away so much, people just roll up their sleeves and go, what can I do to help? And everybody, you don't see anyone slipping out the door at the end of the day.
No, everybody's.
Chips in.
Laura Burnaby did the coffee for a long time. And she was, Laura's very conscientious, so she was always keeping an eye on it. And then after a while, she said, I'm done,
Yeah.
But also
That's what she said.
but she was teaching this year, so she couldn't
That's
make
true,
coffee.
yeah.
So it was like, well, I can't talk to her. And Dorothy was teaching and she was doing all kinds of stuff. And everybody was so busy. And I'm like, oh, everyone depends on coffee. And
Yeah.
then this woman just appeared out of nowhere
And she kept it going all day.
all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the food table has become a big thing. I mean, everybody brings stuff. There's
Yeah.
who needs lunch? We have all these goodies all day long.
Well, it's Friends of Calligraphy. Come on. It's our
Freddie.
Freddie.
I was just going to say the planning starts, what, in June or July. And
Yeah.
we
Optimally, it should start before that.
didn't have a coordinator this year, and at a council meeting, we were talking about it, and I said, well, I'll do it if Evelyn and Nancy do it with me.
I'm going,
And
no.
thank goodness we all agreed, because by the time of the event, I had been in an accident and then got pneumonia and I couldn't show up,
Right.
but the other two could, even though Evelyn was sick too. But it's been really great. And then all the participants signed a card, and I just felt so much appreciation, even though I couldn't be there. And we have two new volunteer coordinators this year, and
Cassie and Maya.
Maya.
Oh, that's
so
Cassandra.
it's just great to do the service. And the more enthusiastic you are, the more likely people are going to sign up next time.
Yeah.
Angela. Um,
Oh, that's right.
Angela, her last name starts with an H. Anyway, she is our new coffee mistress.
We have to write to her and say, we need you to be the permanent coffee person.
Yeah.
Evelyn, by the way, is anybody checking in on the people that are doing it? How are they doing? Are they doing
Yes,
okay?
yes.
Do they need
So
help?
they have started contacting, I'm like a mama hen. I had to make sure that everything was going smoothly and make sure they got started. And they've started contacting teachers, and the church hall is already
Yeah.
reserved.
Mhm.
So things are
Good,
going,
good,
yeah.
good.
Yeah, there's a timeline in the notebook. There's a timeline.
Yeah.
That says in January
Well,
you do this, February you do this.
I
And-
scanned everything in the notebook and put it up on Google Drive.
Oh,
So,
that's good. That's great.
Yeah, well, now we've got, last year we had 3 coordinators. Passing a notebook around wouldn't have worked. And this year we've got 2 coordinators plus us backup people. So it's great that it's online now.
Yeah, that makes sense. And
Yeah,
basically, you just follow the bouncing ball. If you do everything it
exactly.
says,
Yeah.
and every time it says,
And that's what I did.
everything works.
I wrote to them and said, it's time to, I just want to make sure that you realize that, time's going by quickly and now is when you should be doing this. So please go to the Google Drive and look at the timeline, see what you should be doing. And both of them are very organized. So,
Very, very. And
oh yeah.
Angela Hood, I just looked her up. She lives in Novato. She is starting to retire. She's a teacher, but she's couldn't join Cassandra and Maya on the team because she's also taking care of her aging parents. But we're going to have to write her a letter because she does not have her phone number or address in the directory. She just I mean, she doesn't have an email or a phone number listed in the directory, but we have her address and she lives in Novato. So I know it's Angela Hood because she did say she lives in Novato. So, oh,
I
Marcia,
remember meeting her. Debbie and I were so excited that there was another calligrapher in Novato.
yeah, she lives on Roland Boulevard. So I'll send her a letter to say we are hoping. First of all, thank you for taking over the coffee duties. You make the best coffee ever. I'm hoping you're going to be there next year. I know you're juggling a lot with your aging parents, but please let us know. So I'll just send her a snail mail letter to encourage her.
But we've covered everything that I have on my list of topics. Does anybody have other things that you think we should talk about?
It's covered. I think Anne would be absolutely amazed that we're still going after all these
Oh,
years.
yeah.
Oh, I can't imagine us not doing it. It's
I mean, it's so wildly popular, and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
in spite of all the work that goes into it, whether you're a teacher or a coordinator or a volunteer, it's just such a fun day. People are so happy, and it's
And I have rolled up in my garage the Trivial Pursuits banner that Michael Starkman made for 2025. I don't remember if it has a date or a number on it.
We should have
I-
I did a new one each year, so it was
yeah, I don't.
distinctive for that year. I think someone should do a new one.
They're kind of fun.
I'm
Well, they
just saying
usually the banner usually matches the heading, the logo on the
Mhm.
flyer.
Yeah, usually.
yeah,
It's kind of nice. You get an idea for a headline,
but
and
I've got it in case
In
we
case,
need
just
an
in case.
emergency fallback.
yeah, a backup, just in case.
Yes.
Well,
Okay. Well, I think that we've covered just everything
yeah.
and more.
And more.
It's been great.
Well, hopefully some more people will see this and want to come next year.
Before we go, Linda Race, I've written to her, I've emailed her, I tried calling. Um, does anybody remember working with her?
I do. I remember Linda very well. I just haven't seen her in a long time. We never sort of kept in touch. I don't know who would know.
Do we want to turn off the recording at this point?
Yes, I'll turn off the recording. If I can figure out how to do that.
Okay, thank you guys.